All right, good to spend some time with the general manager of the Calgary Flames, Brad Treliving, and coming off what's been an eventful 24 hours. The hockey world certainly taking notice and talking a little bit about some of the transactions. So let's start with the trade. Matthew Tkachuk obviously going to the Florida Panthers, but Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, and a prospect, Cole Schwindt, coming in, as well as a first-round pick in 2025. Maybe just first, when you're dealing with a trade of this magnitude, how it kind of comes together and the work that went into making it work.
Well, they're all a little bit different, Parks. And this one, I think, there's been a lot reported, a lot incorrectly out there. Obviously, in this particular situation, it started with our discussions with Matthew, and he made it clear to us that he was not interested in signing long-term with us. He was interested in going elsewhere. And that sort of set the balls in motion here with this particular transaction. So from that period on, we worked with his representatives to identify teams, that Matthew would have interest in terms of contracting long-term with, and work through that process. And as we began the process early, our focus fairly early in this process became Florida because of the people that we were able to get there. When we're talking about Jonathan Huberdeau, you're talking about one of the premier players in today's game. Forget about position. He's one of the top players, period, in the game, and has been for the last number of years. You look at Mackenzie Weegar, to us, as played on the top pair last year as a top four defenseman, and we believe can log big minutes, do a lot of things, both sides of special teams. We like the young player in Cole Schwindt, liked him a lot. Centerman, size, high-end character player. And then, as you talked about, the future asset with the first, as we went through this process, it was a lot to digest, a lot to go through in a short amount of time. But we zeroed in on Florida, and the reason being, when we felt it was realistic to get these players, we tried to go out and get it done.
But fair to say there was obviously some teams and some interest there that would fit that and allow you to have those conversations to get the best deal possible.
Yeah, we talked to a number of teams. Again, it was a unique process that we were involved in, and it wasn't the entire league that you could necessarily include in this process. But again, I give thanks and a lot of credit to Matthew, but also his representative Craig Oster, who worked hand in hand with us in this process. And these things are never easy. But we were able to accomplish the goal here. And like I said, we're extremely excited about the people coming back here. We think it's high-end players, a real young prospect, and like I said, a future asset. So we're excited about it.
To bring in a guy like Jonathan Huberdeau, you talked about what he can bring, and obviously a guy that had 115 points last year, top two in the National Hockey League. I mean, how does that look? I know there's some changes here to your group in terms of pieces, but what do you see in terms of now the core group of what it'll look like on the ice next year, or at least starting to piece together?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we're 12 hours into this. Like you said, it's an elite talent. It's an elite offensive talent. He provides offense. He makes those around him better. He's probably one of the best distributors and passers in the game. Has vision. Plays both sides of special teams. You're talking about elite, rare talent. So they're hard to come by. We think not only what he adds, but the ability to make others better. It's a significant add to our team.
And for a guy like Cole Schwindt, too, obviously, everyone will start Googling, look at. You mentioned character. When did he first come on your radar? I know 2019 draft. I would imagine you have the book on him there. But just as he's kind of progressed now, and what you really see as a potential fit there down the road.
Yeah, I mean, we've known the player since his time in Mississauga in the OHL. He's filled out. Was always a lanky, tall kid, high-end character. But we look at him as projecting as an NHL centerman. Sort of a middle six forward, responsible. I thought he had a real good first year. He was a first-year pro this year in the American Hockey League. Our guys really like the player. When you go through these types of deals and you've got additional pieces that you're talking about, we had a handful of players that we were focused in from a prospect base, and Cole was right up there at the top of the list. So we think he's our style of player, highly competitive, intelligent, Like I said, a big, rangy centerman. We think he's, like I said, he took a step in his development this year. We think there's lots more to come, and a real quality kid. So certainly glad to welcome him aboard.
And again, eventful here, 24 hours or so, maybe going back a little bit more than that, but lots of off-season left to go. I mean, what now does your attention turn to as we kind of progress? I know you got a couple RFAs there, and just sort of what it looks like now over the next little while to continue to improve your team.
Well, just that. We've got some RFAs to deal with. We'll deal with those. We've got arbitration dates set with them.
Yep.
So we'll continue through that process, and as usual, daily just kind of look and see if there's ways to help make our team better. So we dealt with the situation that we had to deal with over the course of the last couple of weeks. We're excited about the people that we've brought into the organization last night. We move forward.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate this.
You bet. Thanks, Parks.